Okay, awesome. All right, so once again, let me introduce myself. My name is Zong. I'm an assistant professor and extension specialist with all the animal waste stuff. So I do like to introduce myself with my hat. So I think you guys can remember me after this. And also, we haven't met in person, but when we met in person, I'm going to give you guys those stress balls. So whenever who give you BS, we'll take the stress away. And we have our QR code and other things on this. Let me start my presentation. So we're going to talk about the practices related to the manure management in the CAFOs or CAFOs, however you pronounce it. So those are the concentrated animal feeding operations. We focus on the larger farms, but we are still working with a few smaller farms. To start my talk today, I'm going to start with some introduction about what are the greenhouse gas emissions from manure management. And also I'm going to talk about the CAFO practices related to this project for the climate smart. And at the end, we're going to talk about how we do it and some trainings. To start, I just want to give a little bit of introduction why I'm here. Because for some reason I can hear myself now. Can you hear me? Okay, thank you for muting yourself. So I was trying to just tell this is important part for the manure management among the agricultural practices. From this chart, you can see manure management actually responsible for almost 10% of the greenhouse gas emissions. And this is more about Texas. For the next chart, just a little bit more like zoomed in. For the animal agriculture, greenhouse gas emissions are significant, especially for the ruminants. So in Texas, dairy is the number one because Texas is the fastest growing state for dairy. When I started my job in 2017, we are the number 7. And last year, I was told we are number 3. Although we're kind of like tied with Idaho, but we has surpassed so many states, and we're right now number 3, although we're the nation in dairy production. So this is significant, and of course we have a lot feed yards, so beef cattle is also important. And we do have swine farms and poultry farms. Those are the farms we're going to work with. I'm going to give you more details in the next few slides. And this is actually why this is important. We work with our producers to try to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. I work with those large animal farming operations. And often they were like, why we want to do this? So I have these slides shared with my producers, and actually after my presentation, they went out. They were like, "Hey, Zon, why you don't drive a Tesla?" I'm like, because if you guys work on this, we actually can reduce more greenhouse gas emissions just working on cows. This is one chart based on some simple calculation. There could be like different numbers, but it's pretty close. If we work on our manure management to the best we can actually just a couple cows, how much greenhouse gas emission reduction can be more than switch to a full electric vehicle. So, and thinking about how many cows we have in Texas, we have large farms, easily more than 10,000 dairy cows, and we have smaller farms, so many smaller farms as well. And actually, now I reminded myself, I probably have to do a study at this moment, how many EVs around us on campus. I know Julia and Lisa, they both drive EVs now, so good for them. Yes, I have a check here. My next slides, I'm just going to give you a brief introduction. What are the definitions about the CAFOs? What are qualified as a concentrated animal feeding operation? Because this number actually updated from TCEQ and USDA not too long ago. So right now we work with basically the large farms are the cattle and the dairy, and we have one swine farm and we have a few poultry farms. I don't think we have any farms with the duck, but this is one of the charts I got this from TCEQ. So for the dairy and the cattle we work with are more than 700 cattle. Those are considered as CAFOs. And for the other ones we work with, like, case by case. For this one, I'm the one going to evaluate and to recruit all the farms to work with. And for our team, I think all I need help with is how we reach out to those farms, and later we take samples and we do manure analysis and we do greenhouse gas emission analysis. So my next slides, I'm just going to do this, like, try to separate our participants into different groups. My apologies, my brain's a little bit slow because I'm still in Asia time. I just came back like 2 days ago. So what I'm trying to say here is my work for within this Climate Smart initiative is statewide. So there are farms in the North region, East region, and the Central region, and we have a few farms in the South region. We so far haven't got any farms in the West region, but this is like, huge. Like one time I drove from Corpus Christi to Delhart. It took me, I don't know how long, because I did have a few stops, but it was like, more than 12 hours. In this case, I do need your help to take samples and do analysis and reach out to our producers if they have any questions. And for my next slides, I'm going to talk about how the distributions are. So for the dairy CAFO, the first region is the Central region. Actually, we have 2 regions within Texas. We call those DOPA area, which means dairy operation practice area. So one is in Central because we have a lot dairies over there, and we have a lot of regulations to work with those dairies. So in Central Texas, near Stephenville, Comanche, those are some dairy regions. We anticipate to have 5 participants. So those are the large dairies. And also in the North region near Panhandle area, we have another 3 dairies already kind of like signed up with us. I don't know if they have submitted their application with Jason. I have to double check, but they told me they're going to submit their application. And for East Texas, it was the traditional area for dairy. I don't know if you guys been to Sulphur Spring. There is a Southwest dairy museum over there, which is pretty cool. I usually go there to give presentations. That's our dairy folks over there. So we have 2 dairies in that region as well. And for the poultry, most of our Texas poultry productions are in East Texas. So we're going to reach out for a few poultries, although it's a little bit tricky since most of the poultries they work with large corporations. We're still working working on how to recruit them. I have been working with the associations and other industry folks to get them enrolled with us. And for the beef cattle, we have been working with the Texas Cattle Feeder Association, and very likely the 2 cattle farms we work with will be in the North region. And there's one swine farm we have been talking with. This is also in the North region. Most of the Texas the swine production are to the border to Oklahoma, which is obvious, and we have some small farms in Central Texas as well. And for the small and the mixed farms, those are the ones I will go with my grad students and my postdoc in person. So I pick them closer to my region, which will be near Austin and Houston. So for those 3, very likely we will do everything in our own team. But if we need some help, I may reach out to you guys. So that's basically what we are going to do. This is like a big picture, and for my next few slides, I'm going to talk about manure management. Do you guys have any questions? This is so quiet. I feel like if I'm making everyone falling asleep or something.
Just listening.
Okay, good. So let me just move forward and talk about manure management. So the practices for manure management, we're going to start with collections, and also we talk about the treatment. And at the end is the manure storage and the manure utilization. I'm going to break this down and talk about those practices. And within this is maybe a little bit more technical. If you have any questions, please raise your hand or just give me a holler and I can stop and we can talk about more details, please, okay? The first I'm going to discuss is about manure collection and manure handling. This is pretty straightforward. So our main concern is we want to reduce the water content in manure collection. So a lot of our dairy farms and some of the poultry and a few of the hog operations, they use a lot of water to flush manure. So if we can reduce the water consumption, it will reduce the greenhouse gas emissions. Therefore, we try to promote alternatives to just flushing the manure to the pit or to the lagoons. There are a few options. First of all, like these pictures, we try to use vacuum truck. Actually, I have one dairy farm already asked me, like, if we want to buy a vacuum truck for 300K, can this project help? I'm like, of course, this is eligible, and I try to promote them because this is something we like to see. There are a lot of those in California and in Wisconsin and in the Northeast, and we try to promote this practice. And another one is try to use the scraping systems instead of just the flushing. Although, like the previous image here, I just showed that. Sorry, I went back. Is this one is actually combined with the scraping system and the vacuum truck. Some of the vacuum truck doesn't have this scraping system. It is still eligible. And it doesn't hurt if the farm want to use a robotic system. Although some of them complains the robotics are not as reliable at this moment yet. I have to follow up with some farms and see if they like their new ones. I heard one of those farms, they got a new robotic system. So this is like, for the manure collection, which is more straightforward. The next one I'm going to talk about manure treatment. This is more of the central farms and a couple of the east farms they're talking about they are going to do manure treatment. It has a few more details. So for the manure treatment, what practices are eligible? Those are the farms who want to use manure liquid solid separation or bedding recovery or how they handle and settle their manure. I'm going to just show a few examples. So first of all, here this image is it's a nice image talking about using this thing called the screw press. So this is like a manure liquid solid separation machine. Basically, it will take the manure solids up and it will drain the water out. And also at the end, the press will squeeze the manure solids to get more liquid out. In this case, we recover the solids and we reduce the water we eventually get into the lagoon. And here's another example. Some farms, they use this bell press. It's basically another thing to press the liquid out from the manure solids. And another one, this is you can use this one as just a settling or settling tank, or sometimes people call this as a clarifier. Sometimes people use different chemicals to make this clarification or settling more efficient, and some farms they just don't use it. It depends on their own operation. It's quite simple. You just take time to let the solids concentrate, and then we use the water. We actually try to reuse the water so we can reduce the water consumption. The next one is also pretty straightforward. Is once we treat the manure, how we handle the solids and how we use the solids. The major thing, according to my contacts and our producers, what they want to implement on their farms are composting. So of course, we want to promote this practice, which is good for the environment and good for reduce the greenhouse gas emissions. For the larger scale, we use all kinds of this is the compost turner, and we actually have a have a cute name for it, but I couldn't say it because it's called S-word kicker. So those are the stuff we can actually use it. And there are some really nice ones on my YouTube channel, which is the VR. It's quite more fun, but on this presentation, I didn't want to bring any videos which will make my file too big. And another practices could be this called the universal composting, which can reach a higher temperature and can make the composting go faster. Actually, we have one in-vessel composter on campus here at the poultry complex right off 2818, but it's not working actually for 4 years. I'm in the process talking with the poultry department to take over this one and try to make the work again. So this one is also quite common using for smaller farms, especially for the poultry farms. And also for the small, even smaller ones, this is for like, the one I mentioned, we try to recruit overall, I'm going to recruit 18 farms. I think we have quite a few already signed up. So within this 18 farms, we have 15 large farms and 3 small farms. So the 3 smaller farms already told me they're going to do composting. And for the small ones, sometimes we just don't really need much. We just need to pick a site far away from any water source, and we try to do the composting. The farmers, maybe they were like, we just want to buy a loader or buy a tractor to turn or to ship off our compost pile. This would be eligible. So we're going to take some samples from the composting and see how much we can actually degrade those manure materials and reduce the carbon. So some of those we're just going to take some compost samples. So basically, that's all I have for the practices. Jaden mentioned that there are like something how we can work with our producers and get them signed up. So I put one slide here. Basically, I have my own lab. I to the very right side of this slide is my lab. I can do manure analysis. I can do manure. Within this manure analysis, we can actually predict how much greenhouse gas emissions. And of course, we want to do some on-site gas analysis. We have the gas sensors working with NISA. I think we're going to do some in-person training. And also, I'm going to give you guys some of these gas samplers. So we are going to just set those samplers on farms and let them do their own thing, and we will collect gas samples, and you will help me bring this back to our lab. So that's what we do. And also in the middle of this slide is how we are going to do this analysis. Like I mentioned, we were going to do some on-site analysis, and we're going to do some manure sampling. And to the very left is we work with the Texas State Soil and Water Conservation Board. They are going to help us with this, like paperwork and payment. This one, I actually did this presentation with my producers not too long ago. I think my last presentation was in November last year. So they asked me like, what kind of information they will have to give us. I told them not a lot. So we don't want to release like, their production data, their air quality data, their manure and water nutrient data, especially their financial data. They asked me many times, and other personal information. So we work with our farmers. We just go there, ask them, hey, this is our team. You guys work with Dr. Liu, and we come over, we take manure samples, and we do some air quality analysis, and nothing will be released unless later we discuss with you. Just a brief introduction, we have those machines for manure analysis, and also we have the liquor and the canisters for taking the air samples. And just some images how we take the samples. This is one of the beautiful manure parts. Like, I took this like just basically like herbal tea. I was so happy because this farm, they did a really good job on their manure treatment. I was just appreciate those manure samples. So those are something we're going to take the samples back to the lab, and we can do like, carbon and nitrogen analysis. And there are the not so beautiful part, like when you go to the lagoons, especially when the lagoon have a crust, that's a harder part to take because we want to take the representative sample. That's actually one of the reasons my lab we're using AIs to take more like larger area. It's not like if we take manure like a lagoon sample at each different point, it always varies. Like this part is different than the other. So right now we're doing big data and we're trying to do more. But for this project, we don't want to make it like super complicated. We just go every time we go at the farm, go to the lagoon, we go to the same spot. We just take samples over there. My students, I already assigned this to my grad students and postdocs. So we're going to make some long posts. So this will be easier and safer for everyone. So I really don't want people just to quit because someone like have manure spill on their clothing. So that's why we always give you those things. If you feel stressed, try to just um, try to get the stress away by those little toys. And also we have another thing super important is that's not this slides but the slides after. So basically we take manure samples and also we want to collect. We also want to do on-site greenhouse gas emission sampling. We want to do something on-site and also we want to just set up some the gas samplers. For this part, we're trying to do this floater. But honestly, if this is too complicated, we may just skip this part, just take the air samples around the lagoons, because floating this equipment on top of the lagoon is not super easy for someone who hasn't worked on farms like me for 15 years. And also we have 18 farms and we only have two, I think. I have to double check with Nisia, two or one of this leg bore, and I don't want it to just get like Smith or sink into lagoons. We don't want to lose it. It's quite a lot of money. So for this part, we have to do a little bit of discussion at the end, or not at the end, whenever we start to do our sample collection. This is slides I'm going to talk about. I actually did two presentations on farm safety national webinar, talk about how important is biosafety and the security. There are pathogens and other things, but this is honestly not the biggest concern for pathogens, since we have this on farms. If that's a concern, I think animal and the workers already have got sick. So don't worry about that part. But the main majority is the safety. Because on our farms, if we deal with manure, especially if we agitate, there could be some gas, like toxic gases like hydrogen sulfide and even methane. When it's super concentrated, could be a big deal. So that's why I just mentioned I have my grad students and postdoc, we ordered like long poles and we're going to secure those scoops onto those poles so we can take samples a little bit far away. So no one will fall into the lagoons and no one will be super close to those gas sources. But still, we try to be careful. We don't want to agitate it too much. And if necessary, I will buy a few hydrogen sulfide sensors so you guys can take this with you just in case, because with a trace amount of hydrogen sulfide, people can lose their conscious. So this has to be quite careful. I do have a sensor. I will bring this to you guys in person so you guys can take a look. It's quite easy, just a sensor for a couple $100. I bought it from Amazon. We don't have to measure it super accurate, but it's a sensor. If there is hydrogen sulfide, it will beeping and you have to leave right away. I think that's all I have for my presentation. This is my last slides. It's just about the timeline. We are still working on enroll our participants, and we want to measure the baseline for 1 year, and we get everything installed and implemented, and we're going to monitor after the practices for another 2 years. If possible, we may have to do this only 1 year, depends on how fast we can get everything implemented. So That's all I have for my presentation. I know that's a lot of information, and also I talk about manure and poop and other words should be censored. So if you guys have any questions, I think I still have 4 minutes. Please, this is your time. Ask me questions. I will just come over in person on Tuesday for a little bit. I just mentioned this to Jaden. I don't really have many since I have to talk about like do another presentation in person. I just want to show up and bring some sensors and some of my stress balls to everyone on Tuesday. And thank you.